20 days after the GOP ousted Speaker McCarthy, and the effort to elect his successor is back to square one. 9 different Republicans are set to pitch their colleagues on their push to be Speaker. That's going to happen tonight as the House remains totally paralyzed. CNN's Manu Raju is live on Capitol Hill with a breakdown of the new race for the top job. Obviously, the question, which has been the question for 20 days, is who can get the 217, 216, depending on how many people are there, in order to actually become Speaker.
Yeah, and that is the question if any of them actually can at the moment. And there's ample doubt that none of them can. It has been an all-out free-for-all since Jim Jordan became the second Republican to step aside amid this paralyzed House and the inability of Jordan and before him Steve Scalise to get the 217 votes they needed to be elected Speaker. Can any of these 9 do just that? There has been a furious effort behind the scenes to try to lock up the vote commitments before a secret ballot leadership election that will take place tomorrow morning to nominate the next Speaker of the House. The frontrunner is viewed as Tom Emmer, the House Republican whip, but he has by no means locked this race up, given the fact that it's incredibly crowded. I talked to one of them just earlier today, Congressman Dan Muser. He's a Republican from Pennsylvania. His task, he says, is trying to unify this badly divided Republican conference.
I mean, let's face it, Kevin McCarthy was taken out unfairly. Those people that took him out, most of them, maybe all of them, were my friends. But as I said, I respect each and every one of them. That's got to be the case moving forward. The American people want us to stop this dysfunction and get on with it.
Just on the aid to Israel, Ukraine, do you agree with the President and Senator McConnell that those two issues should be linked together?
Absolutely not.
And that is one of the big questions for any of these potential speakers, is how they will deal with some of the key legislative issues that simply cannot be acted upon amid this GOP leadership crisis, namely how to move forward with aid to Israel, how to move forward with aid to Ukraine, how to avoid a government shutdown. You heard the congressman there tell me that he will not support tying Ukraine aid to Israel aid, even though that is what Joe Biden has called for, and even what Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell has called for. So even once a speaker is elected, Dana, expect a huge fight over these key consequential issues, but they can't even act upon it until a speaker is elected.
A fight among House Republicans? It's shocking. Totally shocking. Manu, thank you so much. Appreciate that. Here with me in the studio to share their reporting, CNN's Jeff Zeleny, Leanne Caldwell of The Washington Post, and CNN's Daniel Strauss. Leanne, I've seen you out there. You've been walking the halls, working the members along with Manu. What are you hearing? What's your sense?
Echoing Manu's reporting that it's going to be really difficult for anyone to find 217 votes. They have 9 candidates right now, a contested race. Divisions are running deep. Feelings are hurt. Revenge sometimes is top of mind. And so it's going to be extremely problematic and difficult. They're going to try. Tom Emmer is the front runner, but Trump team is working to make sure that he is not elected. I just confirmed a few minutes ago that Trump, who was going to stay out of the race, has now directed his allies to try to take down Emmer. There's a long list of things. He hasn't endorsed Donald Trump. He voted to certify the election.
Bing, 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 bing.
Yes.
Okay, that's where I was going with that follow-up. Yep. Well, on that note, let's just look at, this is in many ways a personality contest, but it's also about some key issues. One is, as you said, and there's a lot on your screen, so let me just walk you through. The first 2 are Tom Emmer and Austin Scott, first 2 of 9 candidates for Speaker. They are the only ones who voted to certify the election, which is where Tom Emmer goes sideways with Donald Trump. Also, Ukraine aid, they support that, and they support the debt ceiling. They supported the debt ceiling deal. So those are the first 2 who actually align with Senate Republicans and, frankly, the White House, particularly on Ukraine.
I mean, it is pretty amazing when the cardinal sin is that you supported the certification of the election. But that's where we are. Look, I'm not sure that this is going to be policy driven at all. I mean, that has not been the point here. The big question is, as we enter yet another week, is this a fever breaking? Are donors, are other sort of party elders, to the extent that there are any anymore, are they sort of weighing in and saying, guys, enough is enough? So I'm not sure that any of these 9 are different than the 3. Some have much less baggage, obviously. But the reality is that no one is going to line up perfectly. So I think it's going to take an outside force, or just someone finally coming to their senses internally. One of these 9 maybe has better relationships with some of these members. That's what we're about to find out. But it's not necessarily their exact role on all of these votes. It's going to take an outside force to say, guys, finally it's over.
Yeah, I mean, look, we haven't seen in many corners of the GOP right now fever breaking in any sort of sense, and this is no different. But I want to stress here that for Trump, this is about power, and this comes at a time when on the campaign trail and in Congress, he's worried about losing control, losing his iron grip on the party. So he wants whoever emerges from this extended speaker fight, that he wants that person to be incredibly pro-Trump, incredibly supportive of him, no matter what he does.
Except his guy, Jim Jordan, lost. So his attempts at that has not gone anywhere. Leanne, I want you to listen to what Mike McCaul, who's the chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, said just yesterday.
I have to say, and it's my 10th term in Congress. Yeah. This is probably one of the most embarrassing things I've seen, because if we don't have a Speaker of the House, we can't govern. And every day goes by, we're essentially shut down as a government.
Yeah, he's not wrong. He's absolutely right. Electing a Speaker of the House is always hard work, but it's usually one of the easiest things that a party does. And we have spent 3 weeks on this exact issue, and there's no end in sight. Government funding runs out on November 17th. We have this $106 billion Ukraine-Israel package that the White House is wanting to get passed. Every single day, as McCaul says, that they are focusing on this, they are not doing the work.
Yeah, you got to wonder when the adults in the room, like Mike McCaul, who are calling this embarrassing and have been for weeks, just kind of take over and say, okay, guys, enough.
With us now, CNN political commentator and host of PBS Firing Line, Margaret Hoover, and CNN anchor and senior political analyst, John Avlon. Margaret, how great do Republicans feel right now in the House about where they are?
Yeah, they're all looking at themselves in the mirror and repeating their mantra, like, this is not my fault, this is not my fault, this is not my fault. It's all their faults. That was a joke, but this is really bad. It reflects badly on the Republican Party. It reflects badly on the conference. And the truth is, they're going to go through an exercise tonight where they try to look at these 9 and figure out who can get to 217. And the answer is none of them can. I continue to believe, after all the intrigue that you'll hear from my husband over here on the right, we are still most likely to have a caretaker, Speaker McHenry, who cracks out a deal with Hakeem Jeffries and able to fund the government through these important funding decisions through the next 90 days. That's my prediction, John Avlon. Take it.
I appreciate the assist there. No, look, I've been saying for a long time that, my Aaron Sorkin script fantasy that Democrats will find a way to come together with centrist Republicans. Center's got to hold. I've spoke to Republican members of the conference who say, look, we're exhausted. There's no obvious way out. Emmer is the most logical person to do it, Tom Emmer, but he committed this sin of certifying the election. I.e., he's not an election denier. And that has drawn Donald Trump's ire, trying to make him toxic, despite the fact he has McCarthy's endorsement and he's a member of leadership. McHenry as a caretaker may be possible. Ultimately, I think the center's got to hold, and that would be a great thing for the country. In the meantime, this is just self-inflicted.
Here's some reporting on Emmer from CNN this weekend that he put out a letter to colleagues on Saturday, and he said that he was seeking the speakership with the goal of delivering, quote, historic change. And but what it is, and this is the unanswerable question, and why I will not pose it, which is, what does that look like here? I mean, is that the kind of pitch that can win enough support? Just historic change. I mean, you're already looking at a historic mess, so you're in the middle of it.
There's no sense that Emmer is going to be able to not just get to 217, but that he will get the far right of the party. He voted to certify the election. He voted for gay marriage. He voted for the continuing resolution. He's voted for all these things that the Gates crowd and the Freedom Caucus all say are heretical. So how then is he going to be able to pull together the coalition that Kevin McCarthy couldn't hold on to?
I don't know, by promising like a functioning federal government,
But
which I know is not terribly sexy to some folks on the far right.
That's not a winning argument,
Which
John
is
Avlon.
nuts. And
That's
the whole promising of change is, I mean, look, change is not a strategy. It's not a destination. That's really just we're going to be bold. Come with me on my promise of bold,
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what did they learn from 3 weeks of
Nothing.
nothingness? Is apparently nothing, because that's the pitch should be like, we just need to put one foot in front of the other.
This is the fundamental problem with the House on fire, world on fire situation we're in. This is self-inflicted. This just doesn't make the Republican Party bad or the conference look bad. It makes the country look bad. It makes democracy look bad. And so you'd hope that they could rise above all their petty squabbling to at least find a way to fund, the things that need to be funded and not shut down the government in a time of crisis. That seems to be mission impossible. But here's hoping they hit 217.